hate mech anime. Manime, the title of the video doesn't state that it's part of your controversial opinion series. I know, but that's only because that's not what we're talking about today. That's just a long and tiring argument that I will make a video on eventually. My point is that I hate mech anime, yet I'm currently watching Darling in the Franxx. So that's probably saying something. Originally, during the first few months that the show was airing, I was avoiding it like the plague because, well, mech, and all I saw were these images. Yet, after some stern convincing from one of my coworkers, I gave in and ended up really enjoying it. The main reason being that Darling in the Franxx is barely a mech anime and is just a well-done character drama. But what's most interesting is my current experience with the show so far. As of right now, I really don't care for these three. Instead, I heavily enjoy the drama and development of these 7 characters. These characters are considered the supporting cast and often take the backseat throughout large chunks of the series, but honestly, they're some of the most well-written characters I've seen. So today, I want to take the time and talk about how Darling in the Franxx creates and develops such an incredible supporting cast. So first things first, calling these characters part of the supporting cast may be a bit of a stretch. I admit that they are closer to the main character's title than they are the supporting title on the spectrum. Get it? Because gender is a spectrum and the show is all about, you know what, this joke is just way too much of a stretch. My point is that they aren't the 3 main characters. Okay? Got it? Good. I find the main cast of the show to be uninteresting and incredibly predictable. You have these stereotypical self-insert characters, and the crazy yandere chick who ends up being childhood friends with the protagonist and is super special, and yeah, you can see where this is going. Oh yeah, and spoilers ahead, by the way. Hope I wasn't too late. These 3 aren't bad characters per se, but trust me when I say they aren't particularly special. So what's actually impressive in Darling in the Franxx is the uniqueness of the supporting cast. They are simple and generic character designs, but they all have unique traits that make them easy enough to separate. The show builds this relatively large cast and then slowly modifies them through different experiences. And thanks to this, they feel incredibly realistic and genuine. They accomplish this feel through multiple techniques. For instance, they have them form their own cliques and relationships independent of the main cast. Some of the characters are clearly closer to others, while others put up walls against certain characters. There's even a loner character. Thus, they all interact with each other independently from the main cast. One of the best examples of this has to be when Kokoro asked to pilot with Mitsuru. It's a surprising reveal that there's more depth to her character. This ends up being a permanent change to the squad as Futoshi is forced to pilot with Ikuno, the loner girl I previously mentioned. This is all interesting and fun, but what's more awesome is that it has real impact on the narrative. Futoshi becomes depressed because of this and turns to bulimia. Since the joke is often that he is the fat one of the group, he assumes this to be his biggest weakness and the reason Kokoro switched partners. It's really depressing, but impactful. Having these characters who would usually just stand around in the background have some real weight to them. In fact, I actually throw in a ton of puns if you guys ever catch them, just saying. My only criticism so far is that the development among the supporting cast isn't really spread evenly. I feel like Futoshi and Ikuno are criminally underdeveloped in comparison. There are some really solid scenes that hint at a lot more with these 2 characters, but so far nothing much has happened. Hashtag give Futoshi and Ikuno more screen time. Another interesting part of the narrative is the small arc that Zorome gets. He is one of the most talkative characters in the group and ends up breaking away from the pack and meeting one of the adults. He chats with her for a little while and learns some key pieces of information, but most of all, it sets the standard for what kind of people that they are defending. Although heavily flawed, the people of 13 are still human and treat Zorome kindly. This makes it so much more impactful when they finally fail to save Plantation 13, because now we know that they were really defending other humans. This is all done independently from the main cast, giving these supporting characters meaning. Goro is also another character who gets some pretty incredible development throughout the series, originally being the straight-edge student slowly learning from everyone and eventually understanding the meaning of love. He has an entire character arc where it's revealed that the feelings he has for another character aren't mutual and has to accept it. There are countless miniature arcs with just about every single supporting cast member, and although they don't always take up a large portion of the show, they always leave a meaningful impact on the cast and narrative. And that's my point. a story where no characters change isn't immersive. So in order to make up for this, the narrative usually has this main character who changes everybody around him and is the total epicenter of the narrative. Although this works, I always find this kind of storytelling to be a bit unrealistic. Although it's convenient to have a cookie-cutter main character that you can easily project yourself onto and be the most specialist, smartest person in the universe, it's just kind of bland and uninteresting. I personally think the main character of Darling in the Franxx is exactly this. But instead, the supporting cast doesn't rely on him as a crutch. The diverse supporting cast really makes this show, and without them, I honestly think Darling in the Franxx would be unwatchable. The fact that every decision they make impacts a narrative and really makes their screen time important. Not to mention that they aren't these bland self-insert characters, but real characters with their own fears, regrets, and goals. This is something that I find truly incredible and the reason why I think this show is so successful. And despite this show being a mech anime, which I hate with a fiery passion, the amazing supporting cast was enough to help me overlook this detail and properly enjoy the show. Thank you guys so much for watching. We've experienced a ton of growth over the past few weeks, so I wanted to say hi to all the new faces and say, here is my face. If you like my face, maybe consider subscribing. Or if you just like my videos, that's cool too. I do admit, I did originally plan to talk about how sexuality is used to push the narrative and develop the characters, but unfortunately we ran out of time. Not to mention, I feel like that subject matter could be an entire video off to itself, so maybe we'll come back to that. A huge shout out to my patrons, you guys are my heroes. If you're interested in seeing how I edit, chatting with me, or simply supporting the channel, I run a $1 a month Patreon to make that as easy as possible. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys stay man, go watch that goddamn anime!